Well, hello everybody, and welcome to our video today. Where I'm going to be talking about estrogen dominance, what it is, what's causing it, who is more prone to getting estrogen dominance, because there is an element that some of us are more prone to others. And so in case you didn't know, my new book, Overcoming Estrogen Dominance, just came out. It's available now on Amazon. During the launch period, we're doing something special for you guys, and Brittany's going to post in the comments what exactly you're gonna get from us. But anyway, the book is available on Amazon right now, and I wrote this book because estrogen dominance is a very personal story for me. Very excuse me. I think the most probably after Hashimoto's was like the most problematic hormonal imbalance that I had. And I realized as I was going through it, how little resources were available for women to really help themselves. And so in case you're not familiar, estrogen dominance can manifest in the form of many different symptoms. On the flip of the book here, it's some of them I mentioned. So I just start off by telling you it's fibroids, lumpy and fibrocystic breast, period problems, hot flashes, thyroid nodules, endometriosis, miscarriages, breast cancer, and other cancers as well, like uterine, ovarian cancer, mood swings, weight gain, cellulite, stubborn hip fat around the hips and the butt, one of those. So the book is out. This week we are doing, for the next 8 days, we're doing like a lunch party. And it is basically to honor you as our audience, is to have some fun with it, get the word out. And, my mission, in life and doing this is to really change the lives and the health of 1 million women, helping them with estrogen dominance in the course of the next 3 years. And so I am so excited you are here. I'm so happy you're here, because it just shows that you are here to help yourself. And if there's any woman in your life that you think are, somebody who's experiencing estrogen dominance and you really want to help, do send them the link to the book. It's on Amazon now. And you might be able to change the life of a woman, So we got some questions. So just to let you know, for the next 8 days, I'm doing a morning. I'm doing some kind of a cooking demo. I just finished doing it this morning, talking about the foods for estrogen dominance. And then I presented a recipe called the Morning Elixir. And it's on page, if you have the book already, it's on page 338. And so this is something you start off your day with. That's really, is it 338? No, sorry, it's 334. There you go. So that's the recipe I was showing today with ginger, turmeric, and some lemons and limes, and why I do drink it in the morning. So go back to that video. You can find it on our Facebook page, as well as we will post that. Oh, actually, sorry, we have an event page where you will see all the things that are coming up this whole week. Every day we have a focus area, as well as then we're also going to have all the replays that are going to be posted there. And it's overcomingestrogendominance.com/events. Okay. And so Brittany has just posted that there, so you can see it right away. So, so let's talk a little bit about estrogen dominance and post your questions here. So I'll do some questions. So I was just talking about, for the next 8 days, we have focus areas like fibroids. I'm going to be talking about breast health tomorrow with my friend Gay, who's going to showing us how to massage breasts, how to move your lymphatic system. We've got a day for fibroids, for thyroid nodules and Hashimoto's disease, which is highly correlated with estrogen dominance. We've got another day for hot flashes with my friend Anna Quebeca, and again, some cooking demos. So it's going to be some really fun time. I just want to give you a heads up. As we planned all of that out, I was just told that we are expecting a snowstorm here in Colorado. I live up in the mountains, and so there's a chance I'm gonna lose internet and or power. And so if there is any delays, my team is gonna keep you posted, and we will try to make it good for you and just extend it to a few days afterwards, once I'm back up. So one of the beauty of living out in the mountains. All right. So let's pop your question over, and I'll come to this in a second. And I'm also doing Q&As tonight, and where I'm going to do reading from chapter 1 and chapter 2, which is all about what is estrogen dominance, what's causing it, the different types of estrogen dominance, and more importantly, what can you do to really help yourself, right? So today's conversation, I really want to kind of address of what is what are the symptoms of estrogen dominance? Let's talk about that first, because I think that's most important, right? Just to recognize it. And I think, like with thyroid and Hashimoto's, more and more people know that they have it because the diagnostics are better these days. But when it comes to estrogen dominance, it's something that even a lot of doctors, practitioners completely miss it. And the best, I think, remedy that Western medicine has is to put a woman on birth control pills, or if you're struggling with anxiety and depression, which could also be due to estrogen dominance, you put on, mind-altering medications, and the list goes on. So there's just so much you can do to help yourself. It's pretty amazing. And it's been such a big part of my health story that I felt like there was never enough resources out there to really help women. And that's the reason why I created this book, Overcoming Estrogen Dominance. So let's maybe start off with symptoms. And if you want the symptoms, maybe take the quiz in your own time and see how estrogenic are you. We actually have a quiz for you, which you can find that on, if we can post the link as well. There's 2 ways to get there. hormonesbalance.com/quiz. Actually better, I'm sorry. overcomingestrogendominance.com/quiz is the URL. There we go. And from there you can find out how estrogenic are you. But I think, one of the things I could do right away is to kind of pull them out and talk a little bit about some of the symptoms. So some of them would be things like headaches, especially around your period, right? Especially before your period. But some women also experience it during the ovulation. Ovarian cyst and polyps, fibroids, breast lumps and fibrocystic breasts, which we're going to talk about it tomorrow. And, it's kind of, it's such a shame, because we are assuming that having lumpy breasts and having a lot of breast problems is a given and it's a normal thing. And I want to offer you the thought that is not, it doesn't have to be a given. I mean, I know some women who can't even put on a bra because their breasts are so much in pain, and sometimes the whole cycle and the whole month, and others just before the cycle. Endometriosis, one of the most painful conditions a woman can experience. Itchy, restless legs, especially at night. Heavy and painful periods, and that includes PMSs. Bloating, especially in the belly, ankles, and water retention. Like, you can't take off your rings easily. Irregular periods, cycles that become more frequent as you age. Hot flashes, irritability and anxiety. Difficulty falling and staying asleep. Dry skin and skin that has lost its fullness. Spider or varicose veins, so those like the red ones that are broken. Cellulite, especially around your hips. Melasma, which is a big one, that's like facial brown spots that a lot of women get above their lips, on the sides here. Some women get it on their temples here and above the eyebrows. That is a hugely estrogenic issue. And, so many of us will resort to putting all sorts of whitening products on the face. But as you know, and you were here because you believe in not addressing something just topically, but really addressing the root cause of what's causing that discoloration in the first place, right? And then other things would be heavy menstrual bleeding, irritability, mood swings, anxiety, feeling very unsettled, crying spells for no good reason, having a difficulty falling asleep and staying asleep, infertility and subfertility, miscarriage, especially in the first trimester, and one big one, which is mid-cycle spotting. That's typically a sign of low progesterone. So I want to talk a little bit about a couple of reasons why estrogen dominance happens, and why is it that we are so suddenly, the symptoms that I mentioned here that I read here to you, right? I mean, is there a woman in your life who doesn't have them to some degree, or hasn't had it at one point in her life, right? And I think the answer is most likely not really. So let's take a look at why this is happening so rampantly. And, and when I look at it from I grew up in Asia, many of you may know this. I spent most of my life living in Asia. So from age 15 till I was 32. So most formative years, and I've traveled a ton. And one of the things that always stunned me about, women in what we call developing countries, right, is just the overall health that they've had. And a lot of the symptoms of estrogen dominance, they didn't have them. So, so I think there are reasons why we have it that we can control and the things that we cannot control. The things that we cannot control are things like our genetics. So I do talk about it in the book. There is a whole section that I got the help of my good friend, Dr. Rawick Could, who specializes in genetics, and who wrote a whole chapter, who helped me with a whole chapter here, specifically talking about which genes to look out for, just to see whether you're a very slow estrogen metabolizer. So, and that can be a contributing factor, and it's not to say you can't do anything about it. You can, in fact, I wrote this book because I wanted to help myself, right? Originally, or conceptualize the book, I should say, at that point. The interesting thing is, about 4 or 5 years ago, I went to see my functional medicine doctor here in Colorado. And when and I went there, I found out my appointment, my first appointment. And of course I brought a whole printout of labs, my latest labs, and including my genetics. And when she was flipping through it, she looked at them and she said, "Have you ever had breast cancer?" And I said, "No." And why would you say that? And she said, "Because women with your kind of genetics by age 45," and at that point I was 45, yeah. She says, "Women of your age would have had breast cancer by now, most of my patients with your kind of genetics." And I remember that really hit me hard, thinking, wow, I just think it's just, I dodged the bullet. And when I think about it also, both sides of my family see a lot of breast cancers, a lot of ovarian and uterine cancers. In fact, I was talking to my dad, and my dad said, I realized one thing, that none of your aunts by age 50 still had the uterus, right? And so there's a definite genetic component. And when now I understand my genes, all those genes that code for helping you metabolize estrogens and get rid of the dirty estrogens, they're not working very well in my case, right? And so, but at the same time, like, I don't want you to surrender to the thought that this is something that's uncontrollable. That's absolutely that's absolutely incorrect. And through diet, through lifestyle, through supporting your liver, through detoxification, etc., there is so many things that you can really do to keep it at bay. So that's something that we cannot control. Probably the other things that we cannot control that definitely contribute towards estrogen dominance is, if you're living in a city, right, and if you're inhaling pollution, if you're exposed to, maybe you work in an office that is using a lot of these air fresheners, right, or using a lot of chemicals that's being used for carpet cleaning and office cleaning, and arguably that's something you cannot maybe control fully. But I don't want you to be stuck in that mentality, because it's very disempowering, right? The empowering thought here is that there's a lot of things you can do to change that, which can be contributing towards estrogen dominance, such as, for example, let's start off with your skincare products, right? So skincare products from all the key brands, the mainstream brands that you see on television, advertised in magazines, etc., those kind of brands, you want to stay away from that as far as possible. They all contain something called xenoestrogens. If we can put this up, Brittany, on the screen, so folks will know that is Xeno estrogens, xenoestrogens. Those, the meaning of that is, in Greek, is xeno as external, outside. So coming from outside into the body. And the problem with those xenoestrogens that are found in skincare products, a lot of the air fresheners, a lot of nice smelling house cleaning products, right, is that they pretend to be estradiol, which is the aggressive E2, aggressive form of estrogen. But more importantly than that, they also cause DNA damage to those very genes that will help you detoxify you from estrogens. And we can talk about different forms of estrogen dominance in just a second. So, how easy is that to get rid of those, right? Very, very easy. There's something you can completely control. One option is you walk into a health food store, and like a really nice one that has got organic lines. There's so many skincare products, so many, body lotions, right? Shampoos that are really clean, that don't contain phthalates, that don't have PCBs in it, that don't have SLS in it, right? Really nice and clean. We also, in the book, I also have a list of recommended brands that I personally use and recommend. Do you recommend? Okay. Sandra, we can talk about tofu in just a second. And I'll come to food in just a moment. So that's a great question. And so that's one. And then the other thing is, that's part of the reason why in the book we have a few recipes, not too many, but we have a few on how to make your own personal healthcare stuff. So like, for example, this one here is your breast massage oil, how you can make that. So that's something a little bit more specific, right? But we also have things like PMS salve to reduce your, but personal care, we have uterine oil pack. So those are a little bit, let me just take a look at this. Another one I want to show you. We have this something called nourished skincare, skin salve, right? Something that you can make by yourself within 10 minutes. That's really nice and clean if you like using body lotions. Another one is the all-purpose cleaner right here. Really simple recipe that can help you get rid of all your toxic skincare, house cleaning products, And so there's really so much that you can do to rule those out. And that, the next source of estrogen dominance is the food that we're eating, right? So if you're talking about getting your meat, by the way, I am not vegetarian, I'm not vegan, and food can really play a very big role. So especially the real big ticket items is two things: trying to buy and eat organic as much as you can, because the pesticides that are used to grow food, but fertilizers as well, can be really detrimental and they pretend to be, again, the estradiol, the E2, they get converted to that. And the other one is meat, where you're getting your meat from. So getting grass-fed, from grass-fed animals is going to help you tremendously. You're cutting out, not only are you supporting a lot healthier, more humane practices, but you also, for yourself, for your body, you're cutting out growth hormones that are given to conventionally raised animals. You're cutting out antibiotics that is being given to them preventatively, right? And a very unhealthy diet that these animals are very inflamed because typically they're eating grains instead of eating grass. And so this is another really big thing that you can completely control, right, in your life. There was a question about tofu. So, my take on tofu is that, so first of all, this book is free of dairy, is free of gluten, eggs, soy. So there's no tofu recipes in here. And also it's minimal in sugar, and we don't use any nitrate vegetables. So tofu and soy in general I am okay with. If you're okay with soy, then I'll suggest soy is perfectly fine to be used occasionally in an unprocessed form. So that would be in the form of fermented soy, such as tofu. Not tofu, but tempeh. Tempeh is a wonderful soy product. And, soy sauce, etc., things like that will be fine. Tofu is highly processed. For those of you who maybe lived in Asia, been to Asia, you know that when they make tofu in the morning and they sell it at the markets, when you buy it in a container and they will scoop it out for you and they put it in a container, and you can either eat it straight away. If you don't eat it by the end of the day, it goes bad. So that tells you that in order to maintain tofu, preserve tofu, and sell it on the shelves, they have to put a lot of preservatives into that tofu for it to be shelf stable. So for that reason, I don't recommend tofu. But tempeh could be a really nice one because it's fermented. It doesn't use the same amount of preservatives. I definitely do not recommend soy milk. That's something that should not be part of your diet at all. So there is a few kinds of different forms of estrogen dominance. So let's talk a little bit about that. And so maybe I think the first thing I want to just talk about when it comes to estrogen dominance is that let's not demonize estrogen, right? In some ways, I think it's like a double-edged sword. In one way, it's great that we have the term estrogen dominance so that we finally have a name to this condition. But on the other hand, it's kind of created this fear, right, of estrogens, of people going, oh, but you recommend flaxseed. Yes, there's a lot of flaxseed recipes in this book. You recommend flaxseed, but it's highly estrogenic. That's not good. That doesn't make any sense. I'm estrogen dominant already, right? And so let's not so the problem with the term estrogen dominance and I think the perception it created is that estrogen is a bad thing. And let me say that you and I would not be a woman if we did not have sufficient amount of estrogen. I could not sit here and talk to you in a, cohesive and, manner and remember things, and my bones will be breaking and my skin will be sagging and my period will be non-existent, right? If I didn't have enough estrogen. And the same thing, you would not be processing what you're learning here today without estrogen. So let's not demonize estrogen. The problem with estrogen dominance is not too much of estrogen. The problem is how you break down, there's two issues. How you break down estrogens to clean and dirty estrogens is the issue. And the second issue is your ratio of progesterone to estrogen that needs to be balanced out. So let's talk about the first one. The first form of estrogen dominance is, what I call in the book is described as the loud guy at a table, right? So it's basically when you've got it's the ugly breakup. It's the ugly breakup. That's what I call it. So the ugly breakup is basically when you think of it this way, right? Imagine like standing on the side of a river and you see this beautiful river flowing right in front of you. And there's a bank in the middle of the river. And what would happen is the river will split up the water to two streams, a clean stream and a dirty stream, right? And that's exactly what happens with estrogens. They get broken down to clean estrogens and dirty estrogens. Those clean estrogens are protective. They protect your cells from cancer cells. They protect your cells from degeneration, right? And aging. And then you have the dirty estrogens that are causing all this host of symptoms that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. So the interesting thing is that, in the body, actually, I'm going to let you guys guess. What is the organ in the body that's like the equivalent of the bank on the river that helps you to break down estrogens to dirty and clean ones? And by the way, every day we're doing a book giveaway. So this is during the launch period. If you're watching this on replay after the launch, that's sorry to say, but it's over. We're doing a book giveaway. So the question for you is, there we go. And so Rock Flores got it right. And so she will be, Rock, my team is going to reach out to you and we're going to send you a copy of the book. So that's the answer. The liver is what causes. You guys are so good. It's either you've been following me for a while or you just got it. So wonderful. That's absolutely the answer. So what can you do? You can do so much to support your liver. And hey, guess what? All the recipes in here, they are built for that. These recipes are built to support your liver. Bring in some bitters. Bring in bitter flavor to the foods that you're eating. They are full of cruciferous vegetables. I talked about them this morning and I was doing a demo. All the cabbages and collard greens and kale and broccoli sprouts and Brussels sprouts, right? They are all brassica family, wonderful for supporting the liver. So, so that's the first form of estrogen dominance that you can really help overcome really quickly when you start supporting your liver. We also have things in here on bitters, and some of you might have seen that we launched our bitters just a couple of weeks ago, and that is a whole reason the bitters support the liver in a tremendous way. And then let's see. And then the other form of estrogen dominance that you might be experiencing is the relationship between estrogen and progesterone. And interestingly, as we age, right, both estrogen and progesterone drop. But progesterone tends to drop much lower and much faster as compared to estrogen. And so this is the reason why, even though you're going through perimenopause or menopause and your estrogen is going down, you're still experiencing estrogen dominance because A, the way you're breaking down those little estrogen that you have is unfavorable, or because even though both of them, estrogen and progesterone, are low, you have really, really little progesterone, okay? How do you fix this? It depends on whether so I'm assuming, like if we're talking about your estrogen dominance is caused by low progesterone, and you know this when you take the quiz in the book, there are some symptoms that are more correlated with low progesterone. such as, for example, difficulty falling asleep, waking up in the middle of the night, being very unsettled, spotting in the middle of your cycle. That's low progesterone, classical one, right? So then how do you fix it? And unlike estrogen, progesterone isn't found in any foods, right? But we can do certain things to bring up our progesterone levels in a natural ways, in a couple of ways. So the first thing that progesterone needs is nutrients. And the nutrients are vitamin C, vitamin A, and vitamin E, as well as zinc. Those four nutrients, right, vitamins and zinc as a metal, are going to be like the food the progesterone needs, and also vitamin A, Brittany. And that's going to be what the body needs in order to produce your own progesterone. The other one that is one of my favorites with progesterone production is using Vitex, also known as Chaste berry. In fact, in Germany, when a woman comes to a doctor and says, hey, I've got fertility problems, and if it's because of low progesterone, or she's having miscarriages that's due to low progesterone, or she's suddenly not sleeping well, like she was always a really good sleeper, but now she can't sleep anymore, right? Low progesterone, possibly. Then the first course of action in Germany, believe it or not, is to actually put a woman on Vitex. And it's also covered by insurance, which is kind of interesting. I hope the United States comes to this point one day that we're going to have herbs being covered by insurance. I'm just going to take a quick sip of my green tea. I'm sipping on matcha tea. We've also got a matcha tea. Who here likes matcha tea? Do you guys like drinking matcha tea? We've got this beautiful mint matcha tea here for you. And I love this photograph with milk being poured in. So let me take a question. Rock is saying, which brand of those basic vitamin A is best? So, Rock, there's a few really clean brands. One of it is, I'm going to shamelessly just going to mention our own brand. We make supplements called Wellena, wellena.com. You can find a lot of the supplements. Other clean supplement companies will be like Pure Encapsulations, Thorne, Designs for Health, are some of the really nice supplement brands as well. So, so that's for progesterone, to boost it up. Another way of, getting progesterone up is, of course, to use topical progesterone. So that's another option that you might consider. Some people like to go straight into topical progesterone and just, apply it. We sell progesterone in the form of oil on our store in wellena.com. But there's also other people prefer to do would rather do the other things like herbs, Vitex, and do supplements first to promote your own. Just want to give you, I want to share with you a little quick story that during COVID, right, which is like, as COVID started happening, I upped my vitamin C levels to a point where I would get loose bowels. And what happened was I'm 48 right now, so I'm going through perimenopause. And one of the ways of knowing you're going through perimenopause is your luteal phase, which is from the ovulation to your period, tends to get shorter because that's when progesterone is predominant. And as we go into perimenopause, progesterone, remember how I said progesterone starts dropping much quicker than estrogen, right? So then your luteal phase tends to get shorter. So instead of having a full cycle of 2 weeks, full cycle of 4 weeks, now my cycle is down to 3 weeks, right? So Anne is saying she loves our progesterone oil. Thank you, Anne. And what happened was I upped my vitamin C levels during COVID, and guess what? My luteal phase went back to being full 2 weeks. So my cycle returned to the full 4-week cycle. And that was because just by adding that vitamin C to my protocol has boosted my own native production of progesterone, which I thought was kind of interesting. So let's take some questions about, okay, so Sherry's asking, why do my boobs hurt when I use progesterone cream? So there's a couple of reasons for that, Sherry. Let's leave that question on, Brittany. the reason why that can happen is because it depends on where you're using the progesterone from and what's in that cream apart from progesterone. So make sure there's a couple of indications. One of it, you want to make sure it's a USP progesterone. That's what that guarantees the quality. It doesn't have any preservatives, any phthalates in it, no fragrances, and that kind of thing. One of the reasons, there's a couple of reasons I see women responding to progesterone negatively. One is when your estrogen is also low. By just adding progesterone alone without upping your estrogen, that could give you that kind of reaction. The second one is women who have struggled with candida, yeast overgrowth, often respond negatively to progesterone cream. So those are the two things I think you can consider. I'm going to take Rock's question. Is bioidentical HRT good? So let's talk a little bit about that. And I have Brittany, are you able to share the image that I sent earlier for the healing pyramids that we use? Let me know if you can do that. If not, then I will. Actually, let me just try to do that myself here on share my screen. So I want to show you guys. So this is a pyramid that I use in the book, and you find this pyramid, the healing pyramid. I call it a hormone balancing and healing pyramid. As you can see at the bottom of the pyramid, let's remove the comment for just a second. The bottom of the pyramid, as you can see, is really your foundation, is your food, right? There's absolutely no question about that. And then coupled with and I always say food is first and always, right? And then you have herbs, which are often. And, this book is full of herbal solutions. If you're an herbalist or you like herbs, teas, infusions, pestos, and etc., just bounty of ideas. Supplements, I call it sometimes, and then medications, which I will consider bioidentical hormones as being an RX, a prescription-based. By right, I think they should be in some ways prescribed or be taken with caution. And so to me, the HRT stuff is right on top. So to answer Rock's question, I think I see too many women going to hormone replacement therapy right away, even if it's bioidentical, without fixing their diet, without nourishing their body, without giving the body sufficient nutrients, struggling with blood sugar levels, having really poor liver function. And that's what my challenge is. So I will say, if you have fixed your diet, is anti-inflammatory, you are taking precautions and ways to support your liver and detoxify your liver on a regular basis, not doing these crazy deep detoxes, like once, twice a year, and then eating trash otherwise, right? If you're sleeping well, if you know how to deal with your stress through breathing and reframe, right? And things still aren't working, and you feel like, your skin is not the same, your memory is not the same, and you're having sleeping problems still, right? Then I'll say, yeah, maybe it's time to consider bioidentical hormones. So I hope that makes sense. I want to just give you my own experience in terms of using bioidentical hormones. The only one that I'm using right now is progesterone. And I tend to use progesterone only when I'm traveling or when I'm really stressed out. If I'm going through, this book launch is really not stressful. It's been a lot of fun putting this together. I don't have to travel, right? So that takes takes a lot of stress off the list. Travel can be stressful, excuse me. And, but back in the day, when I used to travel a lot and we used to have lunches and a lot of things happening, I could feel like my sleep was really compromised and such. And so then I will do progesterone during that time because I just wasn't coping otherwise. But this is, on top of everything else that I showed in that pyramid. I hope this pyramid makes sense to you and what I'm talking about, and I joke about it, but it's, I think, true that I could make a lot more money talking to you today about throwing heaps of supplements at you. And I can do another talk about supplements if you guys want to, but without fixing your diet, without learning how to eat properly, right? Something that stays with you for life and make you feel really good. Instead of just jumping into supplements alone, supplements are not going to work when your diet is trashy or your digestion is messed up and you're struggling and your liver is, needs some serious TLC, right? So I hope it makes sense. So Karen is saying, so you can use progesterone when you need it and stop using it. Sure, you can. Yeah. I mean, that's, especially if your symptoms don't come back, you don't have to use it. And some women need to use it in order to feel good. So that will be the answer. Let's do Debbie's question. Do I have caffeine? Does it have caffeine in it? I react from caffeine. What are we talking about? Are we talking about the green tea that I'm drinking? Yes. So matcha tea does contain caffeine, but it also contains L-theanine, which is calming. So this is the reason why matcha tea was drank both by monks to help them stay awake and focus on meditation, but also taken before, it was drank before going to war by warriors because of a boost of energy. So Karen is saying, I love the way the book feels and looks. Yeah, thank you. Looks and feels. Thank you. I just want to let you guys know, for those of you who are international watching this, we do sell the book, not on Amazon. We were selling it on overcomingestrogendominance.com. The problem is that because it's so heavy, it's 3 pounds and it's 1.5 kilos, what happens is that the shipping tends to be a little bit expensive, okay? So I think if it's like below 2 pounds, that is way cheaper. So I just want to give you a heads up on this. I think the reframe that I want to offer you on this is that someone who lived in China, I used to live in China for many years, and whenever you wanted the book from the United States, it was known and understood that you're going to pay more for shipping than you pay for the book. However, I mean, either ask a friend from the US to ship it to you, maybe for cheaper. I don't know. We're not making any money on shipping. We're just passing the cost over to you from FedEx. That's the best deal that we got. The reframe I want to offer you on this book is that, at the end of the day, like, what is it worth for you to really feel better, right? And if you're paying even $30 to, and the book is like 25, 27 now, right? 25, I think. Then it's, what is that worth to you, right? Okay, what else do we have? Jennifer saying, are there any specific blood tests that can request for estrogen dominance? Great question. So yes, you can. So blood work, no, actually. One thing I want to share with you, when I was in private practice back in the day, I used to have people walking into my office and bring pages and pages of lab work. And they will say, you know what? My doctor says, I'm perfectly fine. I'm great. Like, I'm nothing to worry about. Yet this woman would have fibroids, terribly heavy periods, right? Her mom passed away from estrogen receptor positive breast cancer, right? And then, and then she's got 5 other symptoms of estrogen dominance, screaming symptoms, yet her blood work showed that she's all within ranges. And that is a problem with blood testing. So we're going to be talking more about just testing for estrogen dominance in greater detail with Dr. Sean Tassone, and that's coming up in, you guys can take a look at the schedule. Can't remember right now. I think it's on Saturday. And so he's going to discuss a lot more on Dutch testing and stuff like that. But I'll just mention, we're going to be just a brief version of this is that you can do, blood is useless for steroid hormones. So testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, cortisol, you don't do tests through blood for those. Blood is great for thyroid hormone, for your antibodies for your thyroid, blood sugar levels, inflammation markers, all those are great. For your LH, your luteinizing hormone, for your follicle stimulating FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, it's all good. Not for steroid hormones. So for steroid hormones, you want to do saliva to see the different estrogens in there, as well as your progesterone levels. That's saliva. And then you have urine testing, 24-hour urine testing from Dutch, DUTCH. We got some special deal from them. You guys can go to, if we can post the link, Brittany, I think it's yourlabwork.com/hormonesbalance. That's the URL that we got some special deal from them. So, but Jennifer, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. I think one great way of really knowing if you have estrogen dominance is to basically take the quiz and go by the symptoms. The symptoms don't lie. We're gonna talk with Dr. Sean about when to test and to test or not to test, and some people require testing and others don't, and so some people like just to go by symptoms, so it kind of depends on you. All right, let's pop up. Brittany, why don't you just find another question you want me to answer? Am I saying, can you please talk about estrogen dominance and headaches? Yeah, sure. So headaches are interesting. We have a whole article about headaches that you can go to hormonesbalance.com and take a look at the blog posts on headaches. There's a couple of reasons why headaches happen. One is that when your progesterone is really low, estrogen starts dropping. Oftentimes women get headaches just before their periods, and that's pretty normal. You can fix that by adding some flaxseed into your diet, and so a couple of tablespoons of freshly ground flaxseed can really help you increase your bioavailable estrogen, phytoestrogens, very quickly. The other one that's very slightly estrogenic, but it can make a profound difference, is red raspberry leaf. I'm gonna be drinking it tonight, and so you will see me sipping on that. Red raspberry leaf is just it's red clover tea. Red clover tea is just amazing. It's slightly estrogenic. It can help you bring up your estrogen levels. Progesterone, I already talked about it. Vitex, vitamin A, E, C, and zinc can really help. The other thing with headaches, something to be really mindful of, because that was definitely my story. I used to have terrible headaches, and not just headaches, but actual migraines, when it's just like I couldn't even move my eyes like that, because I feel like my head was gonna crack open. Is to look into food sensitivities. It's something I would highly recommend. Especially gluten, dairy, soy, caffeine can all cause a lot of headaches. And more, last thing I'll just mention about headaches is your magnesium levels. Magnesium is one of the fundamental, hey, you guys, there is actually a whole chapter here on fundamental supplements. So, if you read this, you see magnesium is one of the first ones that I mentioned here. And if you have chocolate cravings, you guys, for those of you who are loving your chocolate, can't live without your chocolate, you crave your chocolate, you're not craving the sugar, maybe a little too, but you're really craving magnesium. And your body knows that every time you have a bite of chocolate, right, cacao, you're getting a hit of magnesium. And so cravings are fascinating because they're a body's way of telling you what it needs. So tune into those little signals like that, and maybe correcting your magnesium levels could really be helpful for you. Okay, what else do we have? Let's move on to other questions. Can you say why no organic soy, please? So it depends on, I didn't say that. I just meant depends on how processed the soy is. So soy milk, tofu, anything of the soy made, like the fake meats and stuff like that, please stay away from that stuff. That stuff is highly toxic. It's so super processed. It's like I mentioned earlier, soy goes bad really quickly. And so they need to put a lot of preservatives in there. Soy is also high in estrogen, which it can be a good thing, but when it's highly processed, it then becomes estradiol. And so for that reason, a lot of women do have a lot of problems with soy, especially it messes up their hormones. I do know people who have taken soy in a form of supplements that are clean soy, organic soy that's unprocessed, and it helped them with hot flashes, for example, because of the phytoestrogens that's found in the bioflavonoids that are found in soy. So it's, if you can tolerate soy, that's great. I would recommend it, but only in a non-processed form. And soy milk is super processed. Okay, let's take another question. Brenda is asking question for specific advice for 30-year-old on birth control. Okay. So, I don't want to talk so much about birth control apart from the fact that generally does a lot of damage to women. It's got, depending on, regardless whether it's synthetic, whether it's progestin only. I think there's a new movement that pharmaceutical companies now are spinning, saying the lowest dose and it's progesterone only. At the end of the day, it's progestin. And guess what? Progestin was the one that created all that fear of breast cancers and strokes and cardiovascular problems and strokes in women during the Women's Health Initiative, right? WHI, that caused all that fear That was progestin, and if it's estrogen, it's synthetic estrogen. The bigger problem, I think, is that, it's a lot of times women are given birth control pills in order to mitigate other symptoms, like regulating their periods, or to get rid of, or to get their periods back, right? Or to minimize, or to shorten their period because it's too heavy. And, and so to me, that's just not, you're not addressing the root cause of a problem, right? The other thing, which is one of the big things with birth control, is the fact that they are real vitamin and mineral muggers. They completely rob women of B vitamins, of zinc, of magnesium. There is also some studies, pretty much initial studies, that are beginning to show how birth control pills are really messing up women's microbiome, right? So one thing, Brenda, that I would recommend for your daughter for the 30-year-old to consider, maybe that's you even, looking at the picture, is to get Dr. Jolene Brighton's book, Beyond the Pill. And she talks about what the pill does and how to get off the pill, and what are the alternatives to using birth control if the birth control is used for the purpose of contraception. Okay. Rocky saying, I have PMDD. Can you give me any advice with that? And it relates to, and is it related to estrogen dominance? Absolutely. So we have a whole chapter on, let me just pull it out, see whether, by the way, this is my favorite picture in the book. Can you see the scale? Because we are hormones balanced, so everything is balanced. We got this beautiful scale that's like brass. So let me tell you, there is, we have chapter 15, which is on page 198. We have a whole protocol for dysmenorrhea and PMS right here. So that gives you a really clear steps and ideas on what you can do to really overcome it. And PMDD, yes, absolutely, estrogen dominance is behind it. Flaxseed. Flaxseed are good foods to take for women. Is this a question? Oh, it is a question. Okay, with elevated 4-hydroxy. Yes, so flaxseed is an amazing food. It's almost like an adaptogen, meaning that if you need to increase your estrogen levels, and one of the things that flaxseed does is actually blocks the receptors for the 2-hydroxyestrone, okay, and that's the metabolite of estrogen that is problematic. So flaxseed is amazing in that way, that elevates your estrogen levels in total, but it also blocks the receptors for those dirty estrogens, as I call it, right, which is like the metabolites that are potentially problematic. Here's the thing to remember about flaxseed, though, is that some women have a paradoxical response to flaxseed, meaning they start doing, one of the things I talk about in the book is the seed rotation method, right? So using flaxseed and pumpkin seeds first part of the cycle, then switching over to progesterone boosting seeds like sunflower seeds and sesame seeds. And the thing about flaxseed is that women start doing the seed rotation method, and sometimes, and I would say maybe, this is by no means any study, but this is just total anecdotal from just doing this work for a long time. I would say maybe 1 out of 20 women will have a response when they say, I started doing a seed rotation and my breasts are really tender, or my periods have gotten worse, right? So it's a paradoxical response because it's supposed to help and not make things worse. So be respectful of that. First of all, first thing you want to do is stop taking it. But then, I was always, I was puzzled by that. And so I started doing a lot of research, and I found not much, but one paper that said that is the microbiome that is responsible for breaking down those lignans. Lignans is, that's what's found in the flaxseed, and it's a form of a flavonoid that it gets broken down. And it's your microbiome and the diversity of your microbiome that's going to be responsible for making that lignin bioavailable to the body. When you don't have the certain type of bacteria, and guess what? The study doesn't say what bacteria they are. then the flaxseed just becomes more detrimental to a person, and you're not breaking down those estrogens the way you should be. So it's I think flaxseed is great. Ground, not whole. Whole, you want to use it for constipation. It will just really nice way of evacuating things because it bulks up and it just sweeps through your colon. But it's the ground ones, right, that you want to be using to improve your estrogen levels or your estrogen metabolism. So yeah, I hope Tammy that's helpful. Mary says, saying, could you please talk about how to use seed cycle when you are moving into menopause and you're missing periods? Yeah, sure. So the idea of seed rotation, at Hormones Balance, we call it seed rotation, is you rotate the seeds. The first 2 weeks, you want to do the seed rotation based on to improve your estrogen levels. So like I said, flaxseed and pumpkin seeds, 1 tablespoon or 2 tablespoons each. And then you switch over to sesame seeds and sunflower seeds to boost progesterone levels. So when you're in menopause, then you basically can start anytime you want and do the 2 weeks and 2 weeks. Some women like to do it with the moon. And so basically starting off your estrogen, so your estrogen boosting ones during new moon, so your flaxseed, pumpkin seeds in a new moon, and then at full moon, you switch over to progesterone. So it's like pretended ovulation, right? Then you switch over to the progesterone boosting ones. And that's basically it. And there's a little bit more detail in the book that I talk about. But basically that's the gist of it. Brenda is saying, oh, wow, I learned so much. Awesome. In the book, you say no nightshades. How do they affect estrogen dominance? Yeah, good question. So, there's a couple of foods that I actually, if you are okay with them, I think you should eat them. So eggs will be one, nightshades will be another one. Nightshades, for those of you who are not familiar, nightshade vegetables will be things like potatoes, not sweet potatoes, just the white potato, peppers, eggplants, goji berries. I'm forgetting something. Tomatoes, of course, that's a big one. And for a lot of people, it's like, hey, I want my pasta. And I totally get that. So the reason why we cut this out is because a lot of women who have estrogen dominance also suffer from a lot of autoimmune diseases. And rheumatoid arthritis is one, Hashimoto's is another one. And especially people with RA, so rheumatoid arthritis, are experiencing a lot more pain from nightshade vegetables. There's a compound that's found in there right now. I'm forgetting what it's called, but it basically causes inflammation of the joints. And so in order to, be more inclusive to more people in our community, we just decided to cut them out. And it could be that they don't agree with you, but it could be that you're perfectly fine with them. But you wouldn't really know until you cut them out and then reintroduce them. And so this is, the starting point of the book is the elimination diet. So cutting out these kind of foods, and eggs are the same way. I'm not saying eggs are bad. I'm just saying, you got to cut them out for a couple of weeks to a month and then reintroduce them. And then from there, you would know whether they actually help you. They actually, they are great food for you, or is your body responding really poorly to them? I've come to a point, just to share with you, eggs used to be a big problem for me. And I couldn't eat them for years. And then when I healed my gut, and I was able to address a lot of the food sensitivities when they've gotten better and I could eat a lot more foods, then one of the, now I can eat like up to 4 eggs a week and not react. But before, my reactions was predominantly my skin will react. So I'll get zits on my face and I get very dry skin. So those were some of my symptoms. Okay, let's bring on more questions. Okay, great question from Tammy. Is it okay to take DIM for estrogen dominance in women? Yes. So there is a whole chapter in the book on the foundational supplements that I talk about. And I want to show you an image of that I think could be very telling. And that is, let's take a look. This is on 110 page, talk about supplements. Let me see whether I have that. I want to show you the toilet image because I think it's very telling. And by the way, I just want to show you guys, we have these hand illustrations done for our supplements and other things. So those are like watercolors from this artist, and I just absolutely love it. That's one of the things that really wanted to do differently in this book, is to do a lot of hand illustrations. So there is yeah, I can't find it right now. But anyway, so what I was gonna say is that DIM is great for estrogen dominance, but just to be mindful that DIM opens up the phase 1 liver detoxification. In order for you to fully detoxify estrogen from your body, you need to have a well-functioning phase 1 liver detoxification and phase 2. So DIM works on phase 1. Some women, and maybe if you guys want to share here, if there's anyone here who's taken DIM before, and then you felt like you have not, you actually started feeling worse. Your estrogen dominance became worse. You started feeling kind of crammy and having all sorts of different symptoms you didn't have before. If that happened to you, is because you just upregulated your phase 1 liver detoxification without supporting your phase 2. And so for that reason, so we use the, oh, I meant for menopausal. That's okay. This is the same concept. And so for that reason, we also want to work on phase 2 liver detoxification, and that is where sulforaphane and sulforaphane as well as calcium D-glucarate becomes super helpful. And we sell these supplements in our store as well. It's part of the estrogen reset kit. That's why I call it the reset kit, is because you're resetting your estrogen by using DIM together with calcium D-glucarate and sulforaphane. So sulforaphane works on phase 2. It supports your sulfation pathways. It supports your methylation pathway. Calcium D-glucarate supports your glucuronation pathway in the liver. All these pathways are responsible for breaking down estrogen. So that way you have a complete detoxification of estrogen. Okay. Jenna is saying, will this book be helpful if someone is getting over estrogen dominance breast cancer? So I'm assuming, thank you for your question, Janet. I'm assuming you're talking about estrogen receptor positive breast cancer. Yes, the answer is absolutely yes. I think a lot of times I think as authors and people who do this work, I think a lot of the time we start this work because we do it for ourselves. And I think that's important because, I think in some ways I kind of wrote this book for myself first, and then I'm just so happy now to be able to share it with all of you. If you ask me what is one of my biggest fears, and based on my family history and seeing women on both sides of my family passing away from this cancer, my biggest fear has always been that I will get breast cancer. And so, and the other thing is, like, none of my family members actually, when I think about it, actually lived through it for very long. So anyway, there is a whole chapter here. It's on chapter 20 in Overcoming Estrogen Dominance, that you do as an add-on protocol to the foundation. So Jenna, the foundation, we call it Estrogen Reset Foundation, and that's to do your elimination diet, support your liver, and stabilize your blood sugar levels. And it might sound like a lot, but if you follow the recipes in here, these recipes have been designed to help you overcome all of this, support all those 3 things together at the same time. And then you can do the add-on protocol, which is on page 222. And the page 222, so we have another chapter, is on chapter 20, that talks about a lot more things that you can do, including, for example, by the way, you should tune in tomorrow to my talk with Gay Walden. She's a breast health expert, and so we're gonna be talking about how to do lymphatic massage, how to move the lymphatic massage around the breast. You also have a breast massage recipe in here on how to make your own self for that. And so there's a lot of things in here that you can learn how to. So absolutely, yes, the answer is absolutely yes. It's one of the big, I think one of the big audiences that I wrote this book for. Okay. Andrea is saying, I love the Estrogen Reset Kit and I've used it. How long should I take it? Should you take a break? So that's a good question. I would say, Andrea, the Estrogen Reset Kit, which she's talking about the supplements, and that's the DIM, Broca Power, we call it Broca Power, but that's basically sulforaphane and calcium D-glucarate. Those are the three put together. The Estrogen Reset Kit is designed to help your liver, right? To kind of like unclog it and like give it a really good, nice boost to clean it up, and for the body to do its work, for the liver to do its work in detoxifying you from estrogens. You know, Andrea, I would say it depends on how well your body is equipped now to take care of it itself. And so you could stop for a month and see whether you do well. If the symptoms return, then it's probably you need to go back on it. And, you know, I don't like taking supplements forever, so I tend to, except for a few. And so, you know, like magnesium is something I take daily, B vitamins, zinc, like those are non-negotiable. I think every day we just need them because we can't find them in food. But when it comes to these sort of, you know, like the reset kit, I would say, you know, take it for, so you said you've been taking it for, shouldn't say, for how long, but let's say you take it for a month or 2 or 3, right? And then get the results. And I'll say then stop for 2-3 months and see whether that helps you. If not, then just get back on it. But it really depends on a person. It's like how well is your body equipped to detoxify you from estrogens. Mary's asking, does your book cover fibroids and cysts? Yay, it does. So we have a whole chapter. Actually, let me just tell you what the protocols are. So we have a fibroid, this chapter 9 is on fibroids. And we've got some really nice herbal solutions there as well for fibroids, as well as, Mary, you might want to tune into my talk with Dr. Marisol Tejero. And then we're going to be talking about doing castor oil packs for fibroids, because castor oil is just amazing in how it can really move everything, including supporting fibroids. So yes, and then we have, we also have cysts. So if you talk about polycystic, like ovarian cysts, if that's what you're talking about, yes, we have a protocol for that. So let me just, hey, you guys, I'm going to slowly start wrapping up. But before I do that, I'm just going to give you the list of protocols that we have here as add-ons. When I say add-on, is basically you do the estrogen reset protocol first, the foundation, follow the recipe, follow the meal plan. That covers your liver detoxification, very gentle, blood sugar balance, and it's going to help your gut get a really good break from inflammatory foods. And then after that, you do an add-on protocol, right? That is the ones that we have here are fibroid protocol, endometriosis protocol, fibrocystic and lumpy breasts, hot flashes protocol, amenorrhea, which is absent periods, irregular periods, dysmenorrhea and PMS, menarrhea, which is your heavy periods. A lot of people, women have that, especially with fibroids. Thyroid nodules as a protocol for that. Infertility and miscarriages. Cellulite and hip fat protocol. Breast cancer protocol. And the last one is high testosterone PCOS protocol. Okay. So those are the ones that we cover all of that in my latest book. Okay, I'm gonna be back on later today, and I'm gonna do a reading from chapter 1 and chapter 2 for you, selections of that, sections of those chapters, and then I'm gonna do more questions and answers. I wanna thank you for how lovely and engaged you guys are, and how many great questions are coming in here. That's really wonderful to see, and especially just makes me so happy to see there's so many of you who are really taking charge of your health, instead of playing a victim and going like, oh, but my doctor never told me anything. I think times have changed. You cannot be expecting your doctor or your insurance to be really healing you. Like, you really got to do it yourself. And I think you're in a good place and a good starting point. All right, everybody, thank you so much for being here today. And I will see you later today. For those of you who are, if you want to see our full schedule, go to overcomingestrogendominance.com/events. If we can just pop that URL, Brittany, that would be great. And you will see there everything that we've got scheduled for you for the next 8 days, as well as if you're watching on a replay, all the replay videos are going to be there as well. All right. Thanks so much, everybody, and I'll see you later. Bye.